In the darkness of late nights, where the wind whistles like whispers of the past, unimaginable horror stories unfold in the world of pizza delivery. Calls from strange addresses, mysterious figures waiting outside the door, and cold voices echoing in the dark night have created creepy experiences. Prepare yourself to discover 3 true stories about pizza delivery services where ordinary things turn into haunting nightmares, making you rethink what's waiting in the zone. Story 1: Scary Night Pizza Delivery. I will never forget that night. A night when the darkness seemed thicker than ever, when the pizzeria was about to close. The cold wind blew through the trees outside, creating strange sounds like ghostly whispers. I was preparing to go home after a long shift when the phone rang, breaking the silence of the evening. That night, I worked alone at the counter with no one around. When I picked up the phone, there was only terrifying silence on the other end of the line. I waited, but there was no sound. After a minute, the phone rang again. This time I felt a strange anxiety, but still decided to pick up the phone. Still silence. Just as he was about to hang up, the weak, cold voice of an old woman suddenly rang out. "I want a pizza," she said, her voice sounding like it was from a faraway, mysterious place. Even though I was internally screaming to end my shift and go home, I still tried to remain polite. I asked for the address and wrote it down. The old lady hung up without saying anything else, leaving me with an uneasy feeling. It was rude, but I ignored it and yelled to the chef that I needed a pizza. When my boss confirmed that I had to make a delivery, I felt a shiver run down my spine. Although I was initially discouraged, I suddenly realized that unusual orders often result in large tips. I wrote down the address and promised the old lady that the pizza would arrive soon. But when I left the shop, a heavy feeling covered my mind. Entering the address into the GPS, I started my journey. The house was 7 miles away, and the GPS led me to a quiet, secluded part of town. When I arrived, a small, old, one-story house appeared before my eyes. No light, no sign of life. I felt like I was entering another world where time seemed to stop. Pizza in hand, I walked to the door and rang the bell. Silence reigned. No one answered. I rang the bell again, feeling uneasy. After ringing the bell twice without any response, I was about to give up when suddenly I saw a figure standing at the window. A cold feeling ran down my spine. As I approached the window, I saw an old woman, probably in her 70s, staring at me with a blank look, as if she was looking right through me. I shouted that I brought pizza, but she didn't react. The feeling of fear increased inside me. For the first time, I felt like I was in a horror movie. Suddenly, a smile appeared on her lips, but it was no ordinary smile. It gave me a chilling feeling, as if she was enjoying my fear. That face, with its deep wrinkles and empty eyes, made me feel like my very soul was being sucked into her gaze. I couldn't take my eyes off her, even though every instinct in me told me to run. I decided I'd had enough of panicking and went back to my work. Getting into the car, I put the pizza in the passenger seat, my heart heavy with anxiety. I had to text my boss about this bizarre experience. After texting, I started the car, but glanced to the right again. The old woman was still standing there, right outside the passenger window, looking at me with the same eyes as before, but now her smile was wider, as if she was waiting for something. A cold feeling overwhelmed me as I drove out of the neighborhood, not daring to look back. I can't understand why, but the image of the old woman with that creepy smile will forever be imprinted in my mind. I felt like something was watching me, something that couldn't be described in words. When I returned to the shop, my mind was still reeling from that terrifying image. From that night, my boss never forced me to deliver goods at late hours again. As for me, I don't dare think about delivering again, because I know that there are things that should not be awakened in the dark. The image of the old woman, that creepy smile and empty eyes, will forever be a nightmare in my mind, a memory that cannot be erased. Story 2. The abandoned house fear without explanation. 4 years ago, when I was a high school student, I was assigned to make the last delivery of my shift. My 1999 Camry, old but still durable, is the only vehicle I have to deliver pizza. I live in a desolate suburb where deliveries often involve long drives through narrow, bumpy roads. One evening, as the sun began to set, orange light dyed the sky, I received an order. The GPS showed me the way, and after about 15 minutes of driving through dirt roads, I arrived. Before my eyes is a small old rural house by the lake, built almost entirely of wood. It stood alone in the middle of a desolate mountain forest, surrounded by wild grasses, almost knee-high, as if they were trying to swallow the house. I was used to such scenes, but this time, a strange feeling rose in my heart. As I approached, I noticed that the house looked like it had not been lived in for a long time, with rotten wood panels and dusty windows. I brought the pizza to the front door, but there was no door, just a peephole. After a few seconds of knocking, I heard footsteps from inside. The footsteps stopped, and an uneasy feeling began to rise inside me. I felt like I was being watched, like there were eyes following my every move. A deep, hoarse voice rang out from the other side of the door, telling me to bring the pizza out. I asked again, "Are you sure, sir?" but did not receive an answer. The footsteps still didn't leave the door, making me feel like he was still watching me. I almost decided to get back in the car, but didn't want to get in trouble with my boss one last time. I reluctantly walked across the unmown lawn and around to the back of the house. When I got to the back, I saw an old barn and a small yard. On the patio, there is an old wooden table with 4 chairs around it. One of the chairs was facing me, and I saw a head sitting on the chair. The person didn't move, as if waiting for something. A fear rose up in my heart, inexplicable. I started to walk over, saying sorry, but that person still didn't move, just sitting there, looking blankly at me. Suddenly from behind, I heard another voice over here. I turned around and saw a man poking his head out from the corner of the house, with a crazy smile, his eyes sparkling with madness. "Come here. I want to show you something." His voice sounded like an invitation, but it contained an extreme fear. Panicked, I felt my blood freeze. I turned around, ran around to the front, returned to the car, and strangely enough, I was still holding the pizza. I started the car, not daring to look back, and drove away as fast as I could, filled with confusion and fear. On the way back to the pizzeria, I pulled over and called the police. Finally, they reported that there were no signs that anyone had been in the house for a long time, just a desolate, empty house. I quit my delivery job a few days later, but the image of the man in the head sitting on the chair still haunts me. I couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if I had gotten closer to that man. Today, when night comes, I still wish I had turned around to see who or what was sitting on that patio chair. The haunting feeling still follows me, like a ghost that never leaves, and every time I close my eyes, I see that empty look, that crazy smile, and an unforgettable fear. Story 3: Ghosts in the Foggy Night. I spent a terrifying night on a late-night delivery shift in the rural Poconos. It is a quiet, idyllic land, where narrow paths through the jungle create a sense of isolation and tranquility. Normally I don't mind this silence, but tonight everything is different. It was pitch black, and a thick fog covered everything around me, narrowing my vision to just a few meters ahead. I drove along the familiar shortcut leading into town, a road I had passed countless times. But this time, just as I was engrossed in thought, A dark shadow suddenly jumped out in front of the car from the bushes along the roadside. I panicked and stepped on the brake, but it was too late. A terrifying crash sounded from the front of the car, shaking me. Guilt and horror welled up inside me. I just ran into someone. I raised my hand to my forehead, scolding myself for my carelessness. Why does this happen? Why did he appear in this desolate place in the middle of the night? Unable to hesitate, I quickly got out of the car and ran to check on the man. He lay motionless on the ground, right next to my tire. A black hoodie covered his face, and in the darkness I couldn't make out anything. My heart pounded. Fear began to penetrate deep into every cell. I stood there, lost in thought, not knowing what to do next. Suddenly, a scream rang out from the forest, interrupting my confusion. It was a cry for help, clear and desperate, coming from the left. I looked down at the man lying in front of me. He was still lying there, not moving. Instinct urged me to help the person who was calling for help. But why did he appear here? And why did he jump in front of my car? Regardless of reason, I turned and ran towards the forest where the scream came from. I hoped to hear another cry to determine the direction, but all around me was absolute silence. There were only the sounds of dry leaves and night creatures making murmuring sounds, as if they were teasing me. I shouted, calling someone in vain, but in response I was only my own echo. Suddenly I heard the sound of leaves being trampled, causing me to turn around in surprise. Even in the darkness and mist, I saw the silhouette of someone hiding behind the opposite tree. Terror flared up in me. I ran back to the car with all my might, not daring to look back, afraid that someone was following me. But when I returned to my car, the man I hit had disappeared without a trace. Not daring to think anymore, I jumped into the car, slammed the door and drove away, trying to stay calm even though my heart was beating like it wanted to jump out of my chest. I continued driving, trying to complete my mission, delivering the pizza to the final address. When I arrived and rang the bell, a middle-aged woman opened the door. She paid for the order, but her eyes were focused on something behind me, making me feel creepy. Then she asked, her voice filled with doubt, "Do you have someone with you?" I was confused by her question and could only stammer out what she meant. She said there was someone with me in the car. Hearing this, a cold feeling passed through my body. I turned my head, looked at the back seat, and sure enough, there was someone sitting there, a shadowy figure, but clearly someone's presence. I panicked and called the police right from the woman's phone. They arrived quickly, but when they searched the car, the person in the back seat was gone. However, what scared me the most was that they found a bloody knife on the floor of the car, right where that person was sitting. The memory of that night still haunts me every day, making me shudder every time I think about it. Just imagining how things might have turned out if I hadn't delivered that night is enough to make me feel the pain to the core. The Poconos night is no longer as peaceful as before. As the lights brightened and the darkness gradually faded, the haunting images from that night remained imprinted in my mind. Pizza delivery, once considered a simple pleasure, has turned into a terrifying nightmare. Secrets buried in the darkness and restless souls still lurk around us, reminding us that there are things that should not be awakened. Be careful with calls late at night, because in the dark, there may be eyes watching you. And sometimes pizza is not just food but also a door to other places. Unimaginable horror.